Hey there, I'm Nathan, also known as the Rising Phoenix. It's been a while since I've uploaded, so here's what's up. After putting out a lot of ideas and aspirations in my first video, I realized there was a lot of fat to trim off, both metaphorically and literally. Like, a lot. So I've been doing hours of painstaking research and grueling training. So, let me pull way back and give you my hypothesis. If quantum field theory is a part of the theory of everything, then principles and concepts from quantum field theory can be used to understand and explain movements and applications of techniques in combat. Yes, I know, it sounds ridiculous, but hear me out. As I understand it, the theory of everything is supposed to explain all phenomena in the universe, which would include punching someone in the face. Yeah, that constitutes as a universal phenomenon. So to begin, let's break it down into much smaller pieces and talk about waves. A wave is a phenomenon that transfers force, not matter. First, there are mechanical waves, also known as longitudinal waves, in which the force and spin of a particle are parallel to the direction of motion. Think of a slinky, it'll probably help out here. Waves move along the slinky with compression and rarefaction, which is the spreading out motion. This is also how sound moves through air. Then you have transverse waves, in which the force and spin of the particle is perpendicular to the direction of motion. Think of light, or someone using CrossFit ropes. Normally, you only have one type of wave pattern within a medium, but there are exceptions. For example, water. Water exhibits both types of wave patterns simultaneously. Check it out. Now, in this instance, I can't help but think of Bruce Lee when he said,
"This is what it is, okay? I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend."
It appears to me that, like water, we also exhibit both types of wave patterns. Now, before you freak out, let me tell you about something called matter waves. Now enter my man Louis de Broglie. It's spelled de Broglie, it's a weird French name, but it's pronounced de Broglie. He won the Nobel Prize for proving mathematically that matter also exhibits wave-particle duality. Now, what this means is that matter has wavelength. A table has a wavelength. My camera has a wavelength. You have a wavelength. Here's the edge of a razor blade doing such.
And when I line it up on that razor blade, you can see a shadow through the screen. Looking closely at that shadow, you see diffraction fringes. These fringes are very much like these other fringes made by electrons passing the edges of the smoke pits. So the electrons seem to be behaving like the light. And you might ask the question, are both the electrons and the light behaving like waves, or are they both behaving like particles? But you know the answer to that one. The bands in the diffracted light come from the interference of the light waves with one another. Looking for interference phenomena like this is the best way we know for finding out whether we are dealing with waves.
But as far as quantum mechanics is concerned, once you get beyond a certain scale, like once you get bigger, the wavelength is so small that it's basically inconsequential. To expand upon what de Broglie is saying, I'm going to attempt to show you waves in a much larger context than electrons or a razor's edge. Warning, hold on to your britches because we're entering controversial territory here. I'm going to rock the boat with what I call combat waves. When you throw a punch, that punch carries force, if you do it right. And the rotation of your fist and arm is parallel to the direction of that force. So, like a slinky, it's mechanical in nature. your fist compresses into your target, preferably your opponent's face, and rarefaction occurs as their head snaps backwards, and you pull your fist back to its starting position. If you pay attention to the rotation of your torso and legs during said punch, it's perpendicular to the direction of force, thus transverse in nature. Consider the back and forth motion of the shoulders in a basic 1-2 as seen from above. Now compare this motion to this visualization of an electron's movement in a box capable of containing it. Can you see the similarities? It would appear that the old 1-2 is generated by a transverse wave motion of the shoulders and hips, combined with the mechanical wave motion of the arms. So with this being the rotation of your fist and this being the rotation of your torso, basically you have simultaneous rotations that are perpendicular to each other and on two different planes of motion. Kind of like light. Consider also slipping, bobbing, weaving, and rolling. You drop, move, and come back up. If you place a dot in the middle of your forehead and trace its path through the air as you move, you would see a wave, crest, trough, and wavelength, especially if you're closing the distance between yourself and the opponent. Kind of like a snake slithering on the ground. Now I know what some of you are probably thinking, but a wave carries force, not matter. Indeed, when you punch somebody, you are putting force into them. You're not putting matter into them. Someone doesn't gain matter because you punch them. In fact, they might lose it given the blood and/or sweat spray. And even those liquids would go in the direction of your force that you put into them because the wave is carrying them. Unless it gets reflected, which happens sometimes. Additionally, consider how the water molecule returns to its original position after the wave is passed. So also does your fist if you come back to guard. Consider your full reach, the crest of your wave. Your arm is fixed to you, so it must come back, even if just slightly. That wave can then move to any other part of your body that you want to block or attack with, which makes it really difficult to track if done right. Just like how you can only guess the probability of where an electron is at any given time, you can only try to guess where your opponent will come from next. You aren't in their head. A fight is a game of infinite probability. Now all of this is well and good, but none of it will mean much without success in the octagon, and for that, one must train. There is no substitute for training. Speaking of, we'll see how much my training has paid off in my fight on September 5th. That will be experiment number 3, offensive waves. Well, that's all for this video, which is part 1. In my next video, part 2, I'll be discussing the vortex, how it appears consistently throughout the universe, how applying it to techniques not only increases their power, but for some, actually seems to be essential, how a vortex creates waves, and how all of this ties back to the torus. In the meantime, do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm right? Somewhere in between? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. See you next time.